Hi guys, today I'm going to be giving you a tutorial as to how you can set up ELVui. This is going to be quite a long video, so there'll be a few timestamps in the description for certain parts of the setup. Hope you enjoy. Okay, first of all we're just going to the general setup for ELVui. Up by your minimap there's a little C, and if you left click that it brings up the configuration menu for ELVui. You'll notice on the left there are a lot of different sub menus to it, so I'll take you through there one at a time. The first one will be the general. I usually like to keep my announce interrupts on say so that people can see what I'm doing. Auto repair on guild because you don't want to waste your own money if they're offering guild repairs. Not too much else on that section. The next section, media, is all about the aesthetics of your UI. I like to keep mine quite tidy, so I use a nice regular font and in quite a small font size. Same with the textures of the bars. I like to keep them quite normal. I don't like any of the flashy shit. And same with the colours of them as well. I like to keep them quite plain and basic and general of what the UI already comes as standard. Of course you want to keep your minimap enabled. You might want to reduce the size a little bit because it can be quite big when you first get it. I think it's 150 when you first get it, and for me I feel like that's a little too big, so I usually like to keep mine at around 135 or something. And I like my location text to be displayed all the time. XP and reputation bars are pretty self-explanatory. They're just at the top of your screen. You might want to make the width, well, I like to make the width quite long, so it takes up, I don't know, it's just a personal preference sort of thing. Threat I usually disable because it takes up my data text on the bottom right hand corner. Class bar you'll probably want to have enabled if you're not going to cover all of those sort of things in weak auras, but I'll explain that a little bit later. And you'll want to have your cooldown text on because, well, personally I like to see numbers instead of just the box becoming more and more visible. Next we move on to action bars. Arguably this is where you're going to spend the majority of your time when you're configuring your UI. This is because, like, this is where personal preference will come in a lot. Like, personally I like to keep all of my action bars out of the way down at the bottom, but I've read a few things and I understand that people like to keep them around the middle so that your eye doesn't have to travel as far to see when your abilities are coming off the cooldown, how much focus you have, or whatever class you are, stuff like that. But for me, I'm used to the way my UI is set up, so it's not too much of a big deal for me. A few things on here. You'll want to keep the keybind text on. It just displays all of the numbers or whatever macros you have for them. You'll want to put it on key down so that the ability uses when you push the key down rather than when the key comes back up after pushing it down. I like to keep my macro text on, and this is more personal preference. Like, if you don't want these, nice cliff kite. If you don't want these little black boxes that are empty on the action bars to show up, then just disable the always show action bars, but I quite like it. My font is the same as what I have as my general UI because I feel like it should match. It should look nice, so it should match. Same with the font size. I don't like font size too big, so I like to keep it small and out of the way so it doesn't take up half the button. And then just a normal outline. Yeah, my micro bar, I like to keep it as a mouse over. I don't feel like it should be needed anywhere on my UI, so I just keep it really out of the way in the top left hand corner on a mouse over. And I like to keep it vertical as well. I don't like it going across my screen. I want it to go down. It takes up a little less room for me. Yeah, so to do that you just stick on buttons per row and it will change it to a vertical rather than a horizontal. Next, my bar 1, which I believe is this one here. I like to get rid of the backdrop so that it doesn't have this horrible black line around it. I feel like it's a little more clutter. I don't like to keep them on mouse overs. This is where personal preference will come in a lot. Like, I don't like having 12 buttons on my bar. One, there aren't enough. Well, you shouldn't use any key past 6 unless you're using like a mouse with all the buttons on the side, like a Razer Naga or something. I like to keep mine up to 8 because I have 8 keybinds for that. Buttons per row doesn't matter unless you take it like below 8, and then it will make it into 2 lines, maybe even 3. Button size, I like to keep mine quite small. I don't like my buttons to be crazy, so it takes up half my screen. So around 25 is nice for me. I like the buttons to be reasonably close together. I like, I don't know, I just like it. And alpha, I like to keep that 100% so I can see it all the time. Same with my bar 2, I have all of the same settings as my bar 1. Bar 3, I don't think I actually... Where is that? Yeah, that's my one on the side, don't worry about that. Bar 4, I've kept, to reduce the amount of config I have to do, I've kept the buttons at 12 and just made them into 2 rows by putting it as buttons per row as 6. I keep the button size at 25 because it needs to be consistent, same with the button spacing. By doing this you don't have to have another bar to configure. It's just a lot quicker if you just half it like that, because I have enough keybinds for all of that. Pet bar, I don't know, I've always found it really awkward where I have it, but I've never really bothered to move it. I don't feel like it's making me lose any performance or whatever. I just don't like the way it sits around this part, but I can't find anywhere else on my screen I want it to be. And I'm afraid that if I have it on a mouse over and my pet dies during the fight, I won't be able to find Heart of the Phoenix fast enough. And I might even forget where I put it because it's been there for so long. Max buttons you can have on it is 10, because there are only 10 buttons for a pet. And I like to keep them in 2 rows so it doesn't take up too much of the screen. So I put it as buttons per row as 5, and I like it to be a little smaller than my regular action bars because I'm not going to be using it. So I stick it as 22, maybe even 21 sometimes. And the button spacing is 2 for consistency. Stance bar, yeah, I keep it down the bottom, just sat on the tainted bottom panel. I find this, like, I think it looks pretty cool, which is why I've put it there. Buttons, there are only 3, so you don't have to worry about that. Button size, I just put it as small as I possibly can because you don't really need to pay attention too much to that. It's not like something you'll be switching across in a fight. Button spacing, I've kept it at 10 because I want that sort of effect. It looks much cooler when the button spacing is spread out across the panel down the bottom. And I keep it as dark and inactive because I don't like the classic look of like the arcane explosion icon. Just dark and inactive, it seems much nicer to me. And actually no, that hasn't summed up the action bars. After you've done with configuring all the bars, like making them how you want to look, you'll have a button called Toggle Anchor at the top of your thing. Same with Reset Anchors as well. Toggle Anchors basically just lets you move all of the different sections of the UI around. This is where you can change it so that your UI it can be more centered around what you want it to look like. I like mine down the bottom, some people like theirs in the middle. My pet bar is just, I don't know where that's going. Like, it's just that easy, you just move it and that's it. It's completely done already. And lastly, you'll have a button on the action bar menu called keybind mode, and it's probably good if you enable character specific keybinds because it doesn't mess up any of your other characters, but basically you just hover over the button that you want to set a bind for and then press the button. So say I want this arcane shot button to be number 1, I'll just press number 1 and it's bound. Try not to press multiple keys though, or else you'll have 2 bindings for one button. To get rid of that, you just press escape and then remember to rebind the button that you unbound when you bound that one. A couple of things to note. You should never really go any higher than 6 if you're using a keyboard to press your buttons. If you're using a mouse that goes up to 13 buttons on the side or something, then fair enough, go for it, whatever. But if you're using a keyboard, don't go any further than 6 because it's not optimal for you to move your whole hand just to hit 7. And if you have small hands, probably don't even go any further than 5, to be honest. But then some other binds that you'll probably want to use is Q and E, just unbind strafe. It's not that good. You want to use R, maybe even T, probably F as well. I like to use F and G, and I like to use Z, X, C, leaving V because I like the nameplates bound to that. Okay, next we have bags. A lot of this is personal preference. I like to keep mine at 24. Means that the buttons aren't freaking massive. They're not tiny either. It just makes it easy to organise your bags. Obviously mine are pretty dirty at the moment, but whatever. I like the icons and texts for like the sort of data text at the bottom of my bags, displaying my valor points, my Warforged seals, and the amount of timeless coins I've got. You can have a bag bar. I personally don't, and I'm not going to enable it because I'd have to reload the UI for it to actually work. When you open your bank, you'll probably want the buttons to be the same size as well, so just change that to 24, sorry. Same with the width. Obviously I don't have the same, but whatever. Next we go to buffs and debuffs. These are these little buttons next to your minimap at the top right hand corner. The majority of these I have as weak auras, so the only thing I've changed about this is the size that they are and the font. So for the general, I have the Accidental Presidency font in size 11. I think 10 is actually a little bit too small for this, but font is the same as my normal UI and my action bars, and the same outline as well. That you want to keep Blizzard disabled. Next, consolidated buffs. These are these little things next to your minimap. They darken and have a text next to them when you get the buff. Say I buff mastery. Now my mastery buff is darkened and has the time left for the buff. I should probably change this font to Accidental Presidency because I don't like ELVui pixel. And 10, when you get it, when you first get the ELVui, this will be ticked, and personally I don't like that. I like seeing every buff, not just 6, and you'll want to, I don't know, it's up to you if you want to have the remaining time on, but I quite like it. Buffs, I like to keep mine at around size 22, it's quite nice and small. The growth direction is left and then down. This is when it will make a new row after 12 buffs, so 12 icons, and then it will make a new row. And that's the amount of rows you'll have, the maximum amount. You'll very rarely get 3 lines of buffs. Like, I don't know how you do that. Maybe in like might do in some raid environments, but it's quite rare. And then the spacing between them, I like to have it around 13. I don't know, it's just nice and tidy for me, and the same with the vertical spacing, I like to have it about 15. And then the sort method would be by time, and it would be going down. I think the debuffs is around about the same, although I like to keep them a lot bigger because it's something that you'll want to pay attention to more. Seeing as debuffs can kill you, buffs just make you better. And the same with the wrapping the rows. You won't have any more than 1 row of debuffs. If you do, you're doing something wrong. Like you're pulling the Shard Pride pack, you might get more than 1 row, but you don't really need to know. Same with the vertical spacing, all that. That's just up to you. Chat. This is very personal as well. I like to keep my panels quite small. I don't feel like I need to know everything all the time, so let's keep mine at around 250, 240. And my panel width at 350 because it suits the size of my monitor and how I have all my action bars down the bottom of my screen. It suits the size. So yeah, I've disabled the tab panel because I don't like that. And where you see I have a backdrop on this one on the left, my left chat box, that's because I use that for all of my guild chat, my combat logs, and my general chat and whispers and all that crap. But for my right one, I don't use that for anything. I removed the trade and loot panel that you normally have here, and I changed the panel backdrop so that it only displays the backdrop on the left one and not the right one. This is because I like to keep my ELVui backdrop as transparent. I don't know why, I just like it like that. And I don't like the backdrop of the chat box in the background. That's about it. You might want to get rid of emotion icons because like they're a bit buggy sometimes and they make the chat a bit laggy. And you'll want the URL links because it's always nice to have below chat box for this little thingy. Then you can change the font of it. Change the font of the text. Keep it something simple. Well, for me, I like it simple. If you want adventure font, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Font outline, get rid of it. And the tab font, these are the tabs. Same as the other one. If you want consistency, go for the same font. You know, obviously adventure. You know, go you if you want it. And then the font size of it, I like to keep it quite small because it's not needed. And same with no tab font outline. That's about it for chat. Next we have Datatexts. These are these little things on your panels below your chat boxes. This is like a really good feature of ELVui. I really like it. Say you're a Beast Mastery Hunter and you're speccing for Hasten Mastery, you can change these little things to go for, say I wanted to change this to haste, see how much haste rating I have, and then I wanted the time in the middle. If you click on the time, you can get your calendar up as well. And then if I wanted this to be my mastery, I could put that as my mastery so I can see my stats. And you can also, it also updates frequently in combat, so that when you get your like trinket procs and stuff and your random buffs for a class, you can see it update, which is really nice. And then obviously fonts, do whatever you want. These are also Datatexts here under the minimap. Usually I just keep it as Guild and Friends. It's always nicer series online. If you hold Shift and go over your friends list or guild list, whatever, you'll be able to see your rank and your note. Obviously I'm a raider and my note is I'm a PK master, obviously, and then your friends, obviously. A lot of these don't really do too much. Battleground texts, I don't know, if you do battlegrounds, do whatever, I don't care. These just enable and disable the data texts for your chat panels or whatever. And I don't really understand what panel transparency is, but because it doesn't really seem to do too much. Whatever though. Alright, nameplates. Nameplates are these little things, the things that are over a target. There's quite a lot you can config with this. Obviously font, I've talked about fonts so much, so you know, consistency, whatever. You can display your combo points if you're like a rogue or I don't know, someone who uses combo points, fel druids, whatever. You can display the colour of the bar by the amount of HP they have. So if they have a high amount of HP, it's green, medium yellow, and red for low. You can change the colour of how the other NPCs are if you hold Control and V and tap it a couple times. The nameplates for these sort of people will come up, like the friendly NPCs and all that, but I don't like that, so I don't keep that enabled. For the health bar is just how wide and how thick you want it. For me, I keep it at 110. I quite like 110, and the height, I don't like them too thick, so I keep it at 8 or 7 usually. The low HP threshold should just be 20% because that has execute range, and it's always nice to see when you can execute. There's also another option for how you want it to look when they're at 20%. So when a target gets to 20%, this bar will change to something different. It's good for, I know it's good for warlocks who like to shadow burn, execute for more embers. Any class that can execute just willy-nilly, that doesn't have a cooldown, and that gives you a buff or something, or gives you some more power, it's always great to have, but for us it won't be too big of a deal. I like to enable the font on the bar and keep it as percentage so I can see what percent it is. That's about that for health bar. The cast bar, it's good to have, comes up underneath the thingy, under the normal bar, and it will change colour depending on whether you can interrupt it or whether you can't. The buffs, I think the buffs is for that personal unit. Say the raider training dummy has a stamina buff on it. No, not a stamina buff, sorry, these are short-term ones. Has like an enrage or something. It will come up as like a little icon, a little square above the name, and it will display how long it has left on it. The debuffs is the ones that we only give a shit about, because these are the ones that we apply to the target. Say I apply my Serpent Sting, it now gets a little icon above it with the timer, and that will update, you know, as normal when you use Cobra Shot and everything. One thing I have found with this though, if you have it applied to multiple targets, and say your survival and using multi-shot to update your Serpent Stings, these icons don't update immediately. You have to like mouse over the icon I don't know if that's a bug or something, but it's quite annoying. So it's always nice to have something else that shows you if your serpents things are up, like the boss frames or something, which is what I have. But to change it around a bit, you just go onto the debuffs. You go onto the number of auras. For a survival hunter, the max amount of auras you should have is around 4 or 5. I like to keep mine on 4. I like to keep this texture stretched, and it needs to show my personal auras. And I like the CC debuffs as well. So when I ice trap something, it will show up. Ice trap is Alt 2 maybe? Yeah. So now that I've got it on there, the ice trap debuff will show up. But obviously I had to click on it, which is, I don't know if it's a bug or not, but now you can see that. And obviously fonts need to be the same. Target indicator, I have no clue what that is. Actually I do, I lied. When you click on it, there'll be like a little white glowy thing around it. Well, for me it's a little white glowy. You can enable and disable this. Doesn't seem to be updating. But yeah, that's just personal preference. I quite like that. The raid icon. This is for more PvP. So if you're coming up against a healer, it'll have a big ambulance cross next to it or whatever. Threat. Pretty self-explanatory. If you get threat, it will change a different color. These are all the colors that will change. And filters is just I don't know, it's quite complicated to explain. Like, if you don't want something to appear on it, then you'd add it as a filter. And skins, this is just for ELVui has its own skin. This black box here is what ELVui basically is. It's a whole UI add-on pack that changes the look of everything. Say I wanted to get my game menu up, it will have this. It's got a whole different look to the entire Blizzard package itself. Same with all the interface menus, same with the system menus, same with everything. Obviously there are some bugs to it sometimes. I think Dungeon Journal bugs out a little bit sometimes, like these icons, they bug out a little bit. But I don't know, I quite like how it looks. I quite like the whole new add-on setup to it. So you can just leave that default, but if you don't like it, then just disable the ones that you want to keep as the Blizzard standard for whatever reason. I don't know. Tooltips, personally, like, see in the bottom right hand corner I have training dummy 70 or level 70, and it's a mechanical and it's at 100%. When I hover over something it will change. That's a tooltip. There's an option called cursor anchor which puts the tooltip on my mouse, which personally I hate. I think it just gets in the way. I don't want to know where my mouse is all the time, because I like to keep it right click down majority of the time, so that when I hold A and D it strafes rather than just turning me. So I like to get rid of cursor anchor. There's an option for visibility. Sometimes I like to hide it in combat, so that whenever I'm in combat and I hover over something, the tooltip doesn't display, because I have the tooltip in the middle of my SCADA. So I just find that quite annoying, but I guess some people don't. So you know, whatever you want to do, just do it. You can also, when you toggle the anchor, you can also move the tooltip as well. There's a little anchor for it, so if you want to move it, then go for it. But I quite like it in the bottom right hand corner. It's That's just where it is standard. And the health bar is when you toggle over it, you see in the bottom right hand corner where it's got a little grey bar and then 100%. That is just the health bar. So you can change the font to whatever you want it to be, and you can change the height of the little bar as well. So it can be pretty huge if you wanted it to be, but I don't know why you would. Doesn't look too good. If you want to disable the little percentage text on the bar, then just untick text. Unit frames. This is going to take this is going to be quite a long one, so get ready. You want to disable the blizzard. I don't know really if you want to enable smart or disable smart raid filters. It's up to you. Out of range alpha, I quite like it. This basically, if he walks out of a certain range to me, then the unit frame will just go a percentage of its visibility, so 0.35 for me, or 35%. Target on mouse down is usually quite helpful, but yeah, it's up to you if you want to do that. Bars, I like keeping mine as smooth bars, and the font, it should be the same as what you have everything else as. For me, I like the health bar to be just grey. I don't like them as the class bars. I mean, if you're that type of person, then go for it, but I don't really like it. And then changing it health by value will just mean that grey is 100% and then red is not. Health, if you want to keep it as grey, then you can just change it to grey. If you want to have it as whatever this colour is, then go for it. Don't know why you would, didn't look too good, but that's how you change it. Class bar, well, these are the class power bars. So focus is orange, mana is blue, energy is yellow, rage is red, and runic power is like another shade of blue, a light blue. Aura bars, these are the things on just above my unit frames. You can change them to set transparent. By type means that debuffs will be a different colour. I think they're purple or red. Buffs, you can change the colour of them. I'm not going to because I just messed up my UI. So, cast bars is the colour. I usually disable my cast bar because I use a different one. What else do we have? Reactions, don't need to worry about that. Heal prediction is just the colour that you're if say your health has dropped and you're about to get a heal, that's what colour the bar will change, just to how much you're getting healed. And that about sums up the normal part of unit frames. Right, I think I'm only going to cover one or two of these because it will take way too long for me to cover everything, and it is basically all personal preference. If you just keep the rule that you should probably always use the same font and around the same size, or if it's gonna look ugly. So I'll start on the player frames, which is this one here. I like it at 260 width because I don't want it to take up too much of my screen, and around 50 height as well. I like heal prediction being on, so I can see when I'm getting heals from someone, so I can, shout out my healers if we wipe. The text positioning of my HP, I like that on the left. My power bar, I like to keep that enabled, or else how would I see if my power was on without making a weak aura for it or something. I like to keep the style as filled. you can have it inset or spaced, but I just like it on the attached to the thing, and I keep it as 6. Some people can have it a lot higher if you're not too comfortable with focus regeneration or something. And the colouring is just the class bar colouring. You can attach the focus text to the power bar, but I don't like that. And you can detach the focus bar or power bar, or whatever, from the frame as well, which is a nice little feature if you like that sort of thing. There is something else you can do with it. Yeah, this. I see a lot of people using this sort of UI. I know people in my guild use it. Basically, you inset the power bar and then you offset the power bar so that it. And I'll just move the thingy a little bit so that it looks like this. It looks like there's a whole nother bar behind the bar that you already have. I personally don't like it too much. I feel like that's more of a caster's sort of thing. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, each to their own, I guess. One. Power name. I don't even think I have that activated on this. Not for my player anyway. For my target, I have it activated. Portrait. This is something I love. Portrait is basically my little character in the middle. I think this is quite a high CPU usage, so if you don't want to waste your computer, then don't. But to do this, if you just enable it normally, you'll just have it like that. And width changes it. Well, actually, it will be 2D and like that, which is freaking ugly. So if you enable overlay and you change it to 3D, the width doesn't matter then, and then your model rotation just spins the character around pretty much, so it can face wherever you want it to face, which is awesome. And the camera distance will just do as it says and zoom in or out on the character, which is awesome. PvP, I don't PvP, so no thanks. Buffs, these are just these little things that I have on my target, but I don't like them on my player because I have aura bars for that. Debuffs I think I have enabled. Yeah, I have them enabled, which they just appear in between my player frame and my aura bar. They just appear in this little gap here, and I have 15 of them per row so that they're sized like that. If you reduce them, it will just space it out a little more. You can also override the size so that you can have as many as you want on the bar, but I don't feel the need to do that. You can attach them to the frame, or you can attach them to the buffs if you were going to have them enabled. You can make them click through. That's probably a good idea, just in case you need to click in this little area if there's a target there or something, but I don't really see why. Number of rows, you'll probably only want 1 because you won't really get that many. You won't get more than 15 debuffs. If you do, you're going to die, so it doesn't matter anyway. That's about that. Cast bar, I have this disabled because I use an external add-on called Quartz, which I'm going to do a different video for. But you know, just for testing. If you want to see the bar normally, then show and hide, and this shows you like how big it is. You can change it, whatever. Usually I like to keep it around the same size as what my action bars are, so probably around 250, I think. Yeah, around 250, and the height, don't make it too big, don't make it too small. And the icon, so that I'm casting Cobra Shot, the little Cobra Shot icon will appear in this little black box here, and that's about it really for class bars. Class bar, I don't think I have mine enabled actually. Pretty much, it just shows you, for hunters at least, it shows you when like all your traps, Your binding, I don't think it does binding shot, but I definitely know it does traps. Shows you the amount of time they have left on the ground before you'd have to reapply them. Obviously you can work that out from the timers you have, but doesn't really matter. Aura bars, this is the best part about this add-on, I feel. I love aura bars. These pretty much just cover all of your buffs and all of your well, they don't cover debuffs. Well, they could, but I don't like them to. These here are my aura bars, and if I go into combat, it will update, say, with all of the buffs that I'm getting, which I find like amazing. I think that's awesome. It tracks all my trinket procs, tracks all my random buffs like Cobra strikes and rapid fire and scope. And also the legendary back proc, which I find awesome. And also on the target, it also tracks your debuffs on them, so your Serpent Sting and your Hunter's Mark. For Beast Mastery and for Survival, it'll be Explosive Shot and Black Arrow, Serpent Sting. It tracks Concussive Shots as well, and the Glaive Shot debuff as well. So it tracks a lot of stuff. It's very good part of the add-on. I think this is the part that actually sells me to the add-on, because I love the fact that it does this. It's about that for aura bars. You can sort them in time. I quite like them sorted in time, so that it will the longest one will be at the bottom. The anchor point should be on the above, and it should be attached to the debuffs, and the height of the bar, you can change that to whatever you want. I like mine at about 25 to 27. You'll want to change, I think the maximum duration starts at 120 as default. You can just change that to 0 to see all of the, like, all your trinket procs and stuff, because obviously they don't have a 2-hour duration, so you'll have to change it down to 0 to see anything going up. Block raid buffs, nah, you don't need anything else on that. The stagger bar is just for monks, and the raid icon is if you're a tank, healer or DPS, it will just show up on the bar, whatever icon you are. You can stick this wherever you want, so at the top where I have mine. But yeah, that's about it. And I'm just going to do the target frame as well, because this is a little bit different to your player one. Your text position for HP will be on the right. You'll want to show the range check. You'll want that so if it goes out of range, you can see your little buttons go dark. I'm going to move away. Should go red or something. Yeah, all of the buttons will go red if it's out of range. You want to see the heal prediction if you're like playing PvP or whatever. And if you want to set the focus, you just middle mouse button on it, and that will set the focus. You want the width to be the same as your player frames for consistency, and the same with the height. The power bar should be exactly the same as well, because there are bosses that do gain power, like Garrosh in phase, or in all of his phases. You've got General Nazgrim, who gains rage, Iron Juggernaut, who gains like random power that just makes him do loads of shit all the time, stuff like that. So you'll want that enabled. The name I usually keep in the center. Portrait I like to keep exactly the same as this, because I want to see what this guy looks like sometimes. Buffs you'll want to keep enabled so that you can see when, say for example, I don't know, who has a decent buff? Say you're killing General Nazgrim and Shaman spawns, and he gives General Nazgrim an Earth Shield for whatever reason. You want to know when General Nazgrim has that buff on him, or else it can potentially cause a wipe if he heals off of it too much. So you know to tranquilizing shot it off, and everyone will be like, wow, you're the best hunter we've ever seen, thank you for doing that. So that's why you want to keep buffs on. You can change all of that to whatever you want. Same with the debuffs. Cast bar, I disable it because part of the add-on that I have also makes me display targets, cast bars. Combo bar, if you're a monk, rogue, whatever other class I said earlier, then you'll want to keep that enabled. Same with the aura bars, will be exactly the same as your normal one, apart from it will only show debuffs. Well, I've put mine to only show debuffs because that's all you'll really need. If you have the buff icons like I do, then you won't need to see a aura bar for the buffs as well. And raid icons is self-explanatory. The rest of this is literally stuff you'll want to sort out yourself. You just keep the same rules all the time. Consistency is what makes a UI look nice, and if it looks nice you'll get used to it. Raid 10 frames is 10 player raids, raid 25 is 25 man raids, and raid 40 is 40 man raids. So you'll want to sort all of that out if you're going to do all that sort of stuff. Plugins, never really touched. Profiles, this is good if you want to make profiles for all of your different characters. Usually I just have them per class, so I have a hunter UI, I have a rogue UI, I also have a healer UI as well that I like to keep different from any damage classes. But these are, all the characters that I have different UIs on. And then, obviously you've got to credit the people that make this amazing add-on, so, give them some props. This add-on is pretty insane. But that is about it, to be honest, for ELVui. If you enjoyed the video, please like it. If you want to see more of these sort of things, comment and tell me what you want to see. I will be doing a WeakAuras video, a SCADA video, which will take like 2 minutes, and also a Quartz video, which is what my cast bars are. But yeah, if you're new around here, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and I will see you guys soon.